Hi everybody and welcome to another piano review video here at Merriam Pianos. My name is Stu Harrison and today we're going to be talking about Kawai's 53-inch K800, the absolute best upright piano that Kawai's building and one of the very best upright pianos in the world, certainly at the very top of the Japanese piano production industry. We're going to be talking about the action and the tone, looking at some really unique features about that instrument that I find to be of extraordinarily high value and certainly a lot of musical satisfaction when playing that instrument. So thanks so much for joining us. We're going to get started right away. So here we are in front of Kawai's K800. Now, this is a 53-inch upright piano, which actually makes it one of the larger upright pianos available on the market, regardless of what price point you're looking at, regardless of whether you're looking at instruments from Japan, Germany, United States, wherever. 53 is a little bit taller than usually the maximum size that a company builds, which is often 52 inches. And the instrument is right at the top of Kawai's K-series lineup. And so the K-series is the professional series of upright pianos, and it starts right at the K200, goes through the K300, 400, 500. In some markets there is a K600, unfortunately not here in North America. And of course, the very, very top of the heap is this K800. By every definition of the word, this qualifies to be called an upright grand piano. Not only is it well over 600 pounds, which means it's heavier than quite a few of the baby grands that are on the market, but the string length, particularly in the bass, puts it in a longer bass string category than most baby grand pianos. It's actually going to be something closer to like a mid 5-foot grand in terms of the clarity that you're going to get out of this bass. And just overall projection and depth. And then, of course, the soundboard surface area is larger than the vast majority of 5-foot class grand pianos. So this is just one beast of an upright piano. Now, as a result, it does put the price point well above what you would typically be thinking about for a Japanese upright piano. This gets right up into what I would kind of think of as mid-range German upright. So if we're in Canadian dollars, we're talking about sort of starting to touch the $20,000 price range. In Americans, probably talking about closer to kind of mid-teens, 15, 16,000, where your K800 is typically going to reside from a price point standpoint. And so the video, let's just talk about why this might be worth it for some people who are on the hunt for piano, regardless of whether they're looking at a grand or an upright, why that might be a really good spend. And we're going to, obviously we'll cover the touch and the tone, the features, and we'll do a little bit of playing for you so you can get a great impression of the instrument. We're going to start really diving in with the tone and the harmonic parts of the instrument first. There's a few interesting features on this piano, besides the fact that it's just big, which for pianos generally usually translates to some nice qualities, tonal qualities, when you've got more soundboard and you've got more string. But this instrument actually has duplex scaling on it. Now, it's not the only upright piano on the market that has duplex, but duplex scaling is a feature that you usually associate with grand pianos. And this is a part of the sort of the string bridge assembly on a grand piano, where it's an extra length of string on the other side of the bridge. So we're not talking about the main speaking length of the string where the hammer strikes it, but on the other side of the bridge where that string is usually just kind of dead, unusable harmonic material over there. On a grand piano, when you create a duplex scale, you actually put another fulcrum on the other side of the bridge, so there's this shorter length which is kind of just free to resonate sympathetically when the instrument is being played, and it thickens the tone. It kind of creates all of these extra very, very subtle harmonics that add to the color of the treble. But you don't see it very often on uprights. And one of the reasons that is just the space in the instruments makes it very difficult to get one of those fulcrums in there. And so A few uprights on the market have actually figured out how to create duplexing within the capo bar itself, and Kawai is one of them. You find this on the K500, just in the very, very top section, and on the K800, it actually exists in the top two ranges of the keys on both the front of the string length as well as on the back of the string length. So they've got duplexing on the capo, and then there's actually a duplex section on the other side of the bridge as well. So there is tons and tons and tons of color coming off of the treble. There's a thickness and there's a projection that comes off of that that really reminds me of the Kawai GX grands on like a GX1 or a GX2. There's this thickness to the treble. That you don't often hear in upright pianos. So if you're looking at this or a piano like this because you don't have space for grand, but you've got the budget and the desire to have some of these harmonic qualities that normally grands have, this is really cool. It's worth mentioning. It doesn't come up in conversation very often because people don't even think about uprights having the duplex, but not to overstate the point, it's really interesting that they've got it and you can hear the difference when you play the instrument. Let's move on to a few other things about the K800. It uses Royal George felt. Now, what the heck is Royal George felt? Well, this is a third-party company that supplies really high-end felt for hammer manufacturers and a few other applications for that matter. And they've been around for a while, and it's just something that Kawai has decided to put on the K800 as an extra premium feature. I can't profess to be able to hear the difference between the Royal George felt and the premium Kawai felt that they put on the rest of the K series, but I imagine this might show up more in how well the hammer could be voiced, or quite possibly how sort of the longevity of the hammer over time. How quickly it's going to get grooved, or how easily you might be able to, shave it down and get maybe an extra decade of use out of the hammer. But to my ear, I'm not hearing a tonal difference, although maybe if there was such a thing as a K800 without the Royal George felt, I might be able to speak to that a little bit better. But right now, it's kind of theoretical. One thing that I can say is that when I really play this piano hard, I can't get it to distort. So that is speaking to the quality of the hammer overall. It's using a mahogany core, and with better felt, we know that that felt doesn't distort even when you really punch it. It's still getting off the string nice and quickly, and so perhaps it's contributing to that. Who knows? The soundboard on this instrument, we already talked about the surface area being really large, being a 53-inch upright piano. There is so much volume coming off of this piano. Behind this rack are actually some tone holes, so you're getting some tone escaping through the front. We obviously have the top open so that we can mic it nicely, but volume is not going to be something that you are lacking playing this instrument. It puts out a huge amount of tone. talking about control and talking about tone, I've mentioned many times how much volume this thing outputs. But the level of control you get when you're playing quietly, and even without the quiet pedal, still pretty good. Now, 52, 53-inch upright pianos are notorious for being a little more difficult to control in the really quiet dynamic ranges, much more so than what you have on a grand piano. And this is one of the reasons why traditionally teachers and performers, when they get into a very high level of playing, generally have preferred to be in front of a grand, because the level of control doesn't really seem to get sacrificed as you get further down into the dynamic ranges, your pianissimo or your triple pianissimo. But as I'm playing this, I'm not getting any missed notes. And I mean, I'm not trying to play in an inauthentic way just for the sake of the review. I mean, I'm really trying to play quietly to see if I can get a missed note. Yeah, so they've regulated this, they've set the geometry up so that everything is speaking regardless of what dynamic range you're playing. So you're not having to do a lot of compensating with the soft pedal, so you're getting a little bit more control in your very lower ranges. So I like that about it. From a tonal character standpoint, this is super different from a German piano. I guess in some ways I think that's good, because it's going to give people a clear choice in the kind of sound they're looking for. If you're in the mid to high teens US dollars and you're thinking to yourself, well, K800 is going to give me a 53-inch piano. I can't get a German 53-inch piano for that kind of price, but I could definitely be looking probably at something around 47, 48-inch. What are the tonal differences I'm going to get? Well, the German piano, most of them are going to be giving you really super bell tone, super clear sound, but possibly less colorful. And so that may make it more appealing to some styles of playing, whereas the colorful sound, some people might prefer that more for romantic classical playing or possibly jazz. I mean, there's a pretty wide variety of opinions on this, but I would say however you want to describe this K800 sound, and in my words I'd say colorful, I'd say a very, very rich, lush palette of all kinds of overtones, although not uncontrolled. It's quite different than what you would get if you were sitting behind, say, a Bechstein or a Scheingräber or something like that, where you've got this like laser, clarity on every single note, but there's possibly less lush blending of the overtones. So it's whatever you're going to prefer, but this has that lush warmth, colorful tone in spades. It's really, really beautiful to play. So let's move on to the action for a moment. This is using the Kawai Millennium III Action, just like every other professional K series out there. So we've got the carbon fiber reinforced mechanism, or the repetitions. You've got a wood key, you've got a wood shank, you've got a wood hammer. So it's kind of a hybrid. It's using both a combination of natural materials as well as the carbon fiber reinforced synthetic materials. And it's very fast action. I wouldn't describe it as a light action, but it's super fluid. I mean, it's really quite effortless to play. We know that because of some of those, I guess, design advances that Kawai has put in there, there's definitely some arguments to be made that this will be a lower maintenance action than if you were using some of the all-wood actions out there. I would say this is going to be more pronounced if you're in a climate where there's all kinds of variation in the humidity levels. You'd notice it less if you were in climates where your humidity levels were really stable. But one of the cool things, and this is directly related to the action, would be that the K800 has the Sostenuto. And so Sostenuto is, just like the duplex we were talking about earlier, is another function you usually just find on grand pianos. And so the Sostenuto, for those who don't know what that is kind of like a selective sustain pedal. So if I want this B flat to sustain, but only this B flat to sustain, I'd press the B flat, press the middle pedal, and there you go, the B flat sustaining, but nothing around it is. Whereas if I was using the normal sustain pedal, everything sustains. And so very rare that you find this on an upright. They are out there, and obviously most high-end models you can special order it, but it's really nice to have this as kind of a standard feature, at least here in Canada. And then of course you've got your left pedal, that's your normal soft, and the middle pedal, as some viewers might know, on an upright is usually the mute pedal. So instead of that, there's a lever underneath the left side, and that acts in place of what the middle pedal usually does, so that this is free to be the Sostenuto. So besides the action which we've covered, we've talked about the duplex, we've talked about the hammers and the soundboard, you've had a chance to hear some of the bass. Constructionally speaking, this is an absolute tank, and this is where some of the weight comes in. When you look at the thickness and the quantity of the back posts on the instrument, when you're looking at the frame of the instrument, really this, I've argued for some time that the K800 could almost fall into a Shigeru Kawai category in terms of the quality of the build and in terms of the attention that this instrument receives. It kind of is in a class of its own, but I guess without them doing that, it keeps them priced a little bit lower, so that this is still an accessible, possible purchase for far more people. So there you have it, folks. The K800, right at the very, very top of Kawai's lineup. An absolute beautiful instrument to play, a real treat, and something that I think provides a very interesting alternative to the German instruments that have the similar price point. I think it's giving an option for a more colorful sound. I think it's giving an option for, in some ways, a more dynamic sound. I think the difference between the maximum volume to the minimum volume on this probably is greater than what I would be used to out of a 48, 49 inch German instrument of about a similar value. So it's out there, you know, in dealers all around the world, and if you have a chance, if you're in this price range, I would say even if you're thinking about a baby grand for musical reasons, not aesthetic reasons, this would also be a really interesting piano to consider. So anyway, thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed getting to know the K800 a little bit better. Of course, if it's the first time to the channel, we'd really appreciate if you subscribed. It helps us stay in touch with you, and you'll be informed of all of the new piano reviews that we are constantly releasing. So have yourself a great day. Again, my name is Stu Harrison. You've been here with Merriam Pianos, and we'll see you back for another one. Sun is rising, feel the warmth